What I'm about to tell you will make some people extremely uncomfortable, and others will call it dangerous because it threatens the entire structure of how society keeps you small and controllable. The truth is that 99% of human suffering is completely voluntary, self-imposed, and maintained by a simple choice that most people make unconsciously every single day. You have been programmed since birth to believe that your emotions control you, that circumstances determine your reality, and that you are powerless to change your life without changing everything outside of you first. This programming serves a system that profits from your confusion, feeds on your fear, and requires your unconsciousness to survive. Most people spend their entire lives being ping pong balls in the game of existence, bouncing from one emotional reaction to another, controlled by whatever happens to them, whatever someone says to them, whatever crisis emerges in their world. They wake up in the morning already scanning their environment for problems to solve, people to please, or disasters to prevent. Their nervous system is hijacked by the conditions of their external world, and they call this normal living. But what if I told you that this reactive way of being is not your natural state? What if you could develop such a strong connection to your authentic self that no matter what storms rage around you, you remain centered, clear, and unshakable? This isn't about becoming emotionally numb or disconnected from life. This is about becoming so connected to your core essence that you respond to life from a place of wisdom rather than reacting from a place of conditioning. The moment you understand that your inner state determines your outer experience, everything changes. When you become aligned, truly aligned with who you really are beneath all the social programming, the fear-based thinking, and the learned limitations, you step into a completely different version of reality. You stop being a victim of circumstances and start becoming the author of your experience. The science behind personal frequency reveals something extraordinary about human potential. Every thought you think generates an electromagnetic field that extends beyond your physical body. When you're thinking thoughts of fear, anger, resentment, or worry, you're literally broadcasting a frequency of chaos into the field around you, and that field responds by reflecting back experiences that match that frequency. But here's what's remarkable. When you learn to consistently generate thoughts and feelings of peace, gratitude, love, and wholeness, you create a completely different electromagnetic signature. Your heart begins to beat in a coherent rhythm. Your brain waves synchronize. Your nervous system shifts from survival mode into creation mode. This isn't mystical thinking. This is measurable, reproducible science. When you change your internal states, you literally change your chemistry. And when you change your chemistry, you change your life. The person who has learned to maintain emotional and energetic coherence has access to intelligence, creativity, and solutions that are simply not available to someone caught in the chaos of reactivity. The fascinating thing about electromagnetic fields is that they're not confined to your body. They extend 3 to 8 feet beyond your physical form, creating an invisible bubble of influence around you. This field carries information about your emotional state, your health, your intentions, and your level of consciousness. Other people can sense this field even when they're not consciously aware of it. This is why you feel different when you're around certain people. You're literally feeling their electromagnetic signature. When you're in a coherent state, your field becomes organized and powerful. Other people feel peaceful in your presence. You become a source of coherence that helps organize the fields of everyone around you. This is the scientific basis for what we call presence or charisma. It's the electromagnetic signature of a person who has learned to live in alignment. Your thoughts are not just random electrical impulses in your brain. They're organizing forces that shape the quantum field of possibilities around you. When your thoughts are aligned with elevated emotions like gratitude, joy, and love, you create what researchers call heart-brain coherence. In this state, your heart and brain are working together in harmony, creating an optimal internal environment for healing, learning, and creation. Most people have become chemically addicted to the emotions of their past. They've trained their bodies to crave the familiar cocktail of stress hormones that comes with drama, conflict, and struggle. Without even realizing it, they wake up each morning and immediately begin thinking the same thoughts that will generate the same feelings that will drive the same behaviors that will create the same experiences. This is why change feels so difficult for most people. Their body has become addicted to feeling like a victim, to feeling stressed, to feeling overwhelmed. These states have become so familiar that they feel normal. When peace and joy show up, the body actually rebels because it's not getting its usual chemical fix. The nervous system has been programmed to expect crisis, and when there's no crisis, it creates one. Breaking free from this chemical addiction requires conscious intervention. You have to catch yourself in the act of thinking the same old thoughts and feeling the same old feelings. You have to become aware of when you're about to slip into the automatic program of reactivity. This awareness is the first step toward freedom. Let me explain how this addiction works at the cellular level. Every time you have a thought, your brain produces chemicals called neuropeptides. These chemicals travel through your bloodstream and attach to receptors on your cells. When you think angry thoughts, your brain produces chemicals that make your body feel angry. When you think fearful thoughts, your brain floods your system with stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline. Over time, your cells become dependent on these chemical signals. They literally develop more receptors for the chemicals associated with your most frequent emotional states. If you spend most of your time feeling stressed, your cells will grow more cortisol receptors. If you're constantly angry, your cells will crave the chemistry of anger. This is why people say they're addicted to drama. They literally are. At a cellular level, the body becomes so accustomed to these chemical states that it will actually influence your thinking to maintain them. When your cells are craving their usual chemical fix, they send signals back to the brain requesting more of the same. This is why you might find yourself looking for reasons to be upset, or why you might feel uncomfortable when things are going too well. Your body is essentially asking your brain to create thoughts and situations that will produce the familiar chemical. This addiction is so powerful that people will unconsciously sabotage positive changes in their lives to maintain their familiar emotional states. Someone who's addicted to the chemistry of struggle will create financial crises even when they have the knowledge and resources to be stable. Someone who's addicted to the chemistry of rejection will push away healthy relationships and attract partners who will abandon them. Someone who's addicted to the chemistry of anxiety will find new things to worry about even when their original problems are solved. The withdrawal process from emotional addiction is real and can be intense. When you start changing your thought patterns and choosing different emotions, your body will resist. You might feel restless, irritable, or even physically ill as your cells detox from their familiar chemical environment. You might find yourself craving drama or conflict. You might feel the urge to check your phone compulsively or create problems where none exist. And understanding this process is crucial because it helps you recognize that these withdrawal symptoms are actually signs that you're making progress. The discomfort you feel when changing your emotional patterns isn't evidence that you're doing something wrong. It's evidence that you're breaking free from an addiction that has been controlling your life. The key to successful emotional detox is consistency and patience. You have to be willing to feel uncomfortable as your body adjusts to new chemical states. You have to resist the urge to return to familiar patterns just because they feel normal. This is where meditation and mindfulness practices become essential. They give you the tools to observe the withdrawal process without being controlled by it. During this transition period, your brain is literally rewiring itself. Neuroscientists call this neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to form new neural pathways and connections. Every time you choose a different thought or emotion, you're strengthening new neural networks while weakening the old ones. But this process takes time and repetition. The amazing thing is that once you've successfully broken free from emotional addiction, you gain access to a completely different range of feelings and experiences. Instead of being limited to the familiar cocktail of stress hormones, you can experience the chemistry of elevated emotions like gratitude, compassion, joy, and inspiration. These states don't just feel better, they actually make you smarter, more creative, and more capable of finding solutions to life's challenges. People who have broken free from emotional addiction often report that their old problems seem to solve themselves. This isn't because the external circumstances magically change, it's because they're no longer unconsciously creating the same patterns over and over again. When you're not addicted to the chemistry of struggle, you stop attracting situations that create struggle. When you're not addicted to the chemistry of conflict, you stop engaging in behaviors that generate conflict. The process of breaking emotional addiction also affects your relationships dramatically. Many people are unconsciously drawn to others who can provide them with their familiar emotional chemicals. Someone addicted to drama will attract dramatic partners. Someone addicted to feeling rejected will be drawn to people who are emotionally unavailable. Someone addicted to feeling superior will seek out people they can look down on. As you break free from these addictions, you'll naturally start attracting different types of people into your life. You'll find yourself less interested in relationships that are based on mutual dysfunction and more attracted to connections that are based on mutual growth and authenticity. Some of your existing relationships may struggle during this transition because the other person may not be ready to change their own patterns. This is one of the most challenging aspects of personal transformation. Recognizing that not everyone in your life will be supportive of your growth. Some people have a vested interest in keeping you stuck in familiar patterns because it maintains the predictable dynamic of your relationship. They may unconsciously try to pull you back into old behaviors because your new way of being threatens their own comfort zone. The aligned person learns to navigate these relationship dynamics with compassion, but without compromise. They understand that they can love someone while still choosing not to participate in toxic patterns. They realize that trying to change other people is just another form of addiction, an addiction to control. Instead, they focus on maintaining their own alignment and trusting that their example will either inspire others to grow or naturally attract new relationships that match their elevated frequency. Breaking free from emotional addiction isn't just about feeling better. It's about reclaiming your power to create the life you actually want rather than unconsciously recreating the life you've always known. It's about becoming the conscious author of your experience rather than the unconscious victim of your conditioning. This is perhaps the most important work any human being can do, because everything else in your life flows from your emotional state and the chemistry it creates in your body. Most people are unconscious 95% of the time. They're running on autopilot, driven by subconscious programs that were installed in childhood, through trauma, or through repetitive conditioning. They think they're making choices, but they're actually being lived by their programming. The aligned person has learned to step back and observe their thoughts and emotions without being controlled by them. When you develop the observer self, that part of you that can witness your internal experience without being swept away by it, you create space between stimulus and response. In that space lies your power. Instead of automatically reacting when someone pushes your buttons, you pause, you breathe, you choose your response from a place of centeredness rather than reactivity. This observer self is like having an internal witness that never loses its cool. It watches thoughts come and go like clouds in the sky. It notices emotions arise and pass away like waves in the ocean. It recognizes when old patterns are trying to reassert themselves and gently redirects attention back to alignment. The practice of witnessing creates neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to form new neural pathways. Every time you catch yourself before reacting and choose a different response, you're literally rewiring your nervous system. You're teaching your brain that there's another way to be. Over time, these new pathways become stronger than the old ones, and what once felt difficult becomes automatic. This is how you move from being unconscious to conscious, from reactive to responsive, from victim to creator. You develop the capacity to observe your internal state and make adjustments in real time. When you notice yourself getting pulled into drama, you have the tools to center yourself. When you feel your energy being drained by negative people or situations, you know how to protect and restore your vitality. The development of the observer self is perhaps the most crucial skill for anyone seeking true alignment. Most people live their entire lives completely identified with their thoughts and emotions. They don't realize that they are not their thoughts. They are the awareness that observes thoughts. They don't understand that they are not their emotions. They are the consciousness that experiences emotions. And this misidentification keeps them trapped in an endless cycle of reactivity. Think about the last time you were really angry about something. In that moment, you probably felt like anger was all there was. You were completely consumed by it, completely identified with it. You were anger. But if you had been able to step back just slightly and observe the anger, you would have realized that there was a part of you that was watching the anger arise. That watching part, that's your observer self, that's who you really are. This observer is always present, but most people are so caught up in the drama of their thoughts and emotions that they never notice it. It's like being so focused on the movie screen that you forget you're sitting in a theater. The observer self is your seat in the theater of consciousness. From this position, you can watch the movie of your thoughts and emotions without being totally absorbed by it. Developing this capacity requires practice and patience. The mind has been conditioned for years or decades to operate automatically. The neural pathways for reactive behavior are well-established superhighways in your brain. Creating new pathways for conscious response is like creating walking trails through dense forest. It takes time and repetition to establish clear paths. One of the most effective ways to strengthen your observer self is through what I call micro moments of awareness. These are brief pauses throughout your day where you simply notice what's happening in your internal world. You might be walking to your car and suddenly realize you've been replaying an argument from 3 days ago. Instead of continuing the mental replay, you pause and observe. I notice I'm thinking about that argument again. This simple recognition is enough to break the unconscious pattern. These micro moments don't require formal meditation or special circumstances. The key is to catch yourself in the act of unconscious thinking and gently redirect your attention to the present moment. Each time you do this, you're strengthening the neural pathways for consciousness and weakening the pathways for unconscious reactivity.